Meanwhile, Russian forces are going all out to capture the city of Mariupol and have reportedly even entered the heart of that port city. But despite the siege on Mariupol, Ukrainians are now refusing to give in to Russian troops. Ukrainian officials defiantly rejected a Russian demand that their forces in the besieged strategic port city of Mariupol lay down arms and raise white flags in exchange for safe passage out. Ukraine has said that there is no question of surrendering the city of Mariupol after Russia called on Ukraine and Ukrainian forces on Sunday to lay down their arms. The Deputy Prime Minister of the country has said, and I quote, "There can be no question of any surrender, laying down of arms." This comes after Russia even hit a school, an art school that sheltered about 400 people only hours before offering to open 2 corridors out of the city. Zelensky has condemned this attack and called it an assault by a mass murderer on hundreds of innocent civilians.
Я не могу попасть в свою квартиру. Я с левого берега. Даже не знаю, жива ли моя квартира, мой дом и вообще все. Приехала на работу и вот не могу отсюда уехать.
Давно приехали?
24 февраля на работу приехала и осталась вот у детей. И все. И что с левым, я не знаю. Что там вообще с квартирой. Дочка младшая живет в центре, где сейчас...
Now let me cut across to Maria, who's been bringing us all those factual details from ground. She's currently in the capital city of Kiev. Maria, over to you. We understand that there's heavy shelling that still continues on the 26th day in many parts of North Kiev. Apart from that, this port city of Mariupol. In fact, we hear Russian forces have already managed to make their way into the heart of the city and have given an ultimatum, a warning to civilians and the Ukrainian forces alike to put down their arms. If not, they could come under fire.
You're right, but still we see that these demand of Russians should not and could not be, executed by Ukrainians. So no intentions to lay down arms, no intentions to stop fighting, because this is Mariupol. Mariupol is the city which has been at war almost for 8 years, so it was very close to the area where real war has been, and they are used to combating Russians, and they once have already made Russians occupiers go away. So this is the plan again, and we see that Russians do try to make civilian people as a shield for them from the Ukrainian army. So they are hiding in the residential areas. They are using people as a shield, as the the target for their artillery, and also trying to hide behind the backs of people against the strikes of Ukrainian army. So far the green corridors which have been announced do work with problems. We see that people do really go out of Mariupol with their own transportation, means of transport. I know personally several stories of my acquaintances who managed to get their relatives out of there safely to Zaporizhia. But of course, all the stories say that while walking or while driving through these green corridors, the cars are being again targeted and shot by Russians. So we're not talking artillery, we are talking also from guns, but there are really attacks on these green corridors, which were negotiated by Russians with Ukrainians. So as we see again, Russia does not stick to the promises that it gives during negotiations, and still, as recent information from the Ministry of Occupied Territories, from Minister of Occupied Territories Irina Vereshchuk, that evacuation still continues. So there is a way from out of Mariupol to Zaporizhia. And also the recent news is that evacuation from Berdansk, which is very close to Mariupol, but the other oblast of Mariupol is Donetsk and Berdansk is Zaporizhia Oblast. The evacuation of more than 700 people was successfully completed yesterday, and the evacuation still continues. Of course, the risks of getting evacuated are really high because the roads are all shot by Russians, so no ceasefire promise.
I was just getting to that. While we see that the port city of Mariupol, several civilians desperately trying to leave that besieged city, we hear that targeting civilians still continues. 400 odd civilians who were taking shelter at one of the art school was in fact struck upon, and we hear that several people could have lost their lives. Can you elaborate on that attack on that school that took place in Mariupol city?
You're right. So we have seen the attack on this 12th Mariupol art school where 400 people were sheltering beneath in the basement. So far, I've just checked the news from Mariupol City Council, and they do not yet know the exact numbers of casualties there. So we are still to get these numbers. The hopes are high that the situation is the same as with Mariupol Drama Theater, where the bomb shelter survived and people are being taken out of the debris of this theater, but alive. So the same hope applies to this art school. No exact numbers of casualties, no exact numbers so far shown by the officials, and which is also important to note that all the Ukrainian citizens and also foreign reporters are asked by Ukrainian state not to show the results of strikes, the information about strikes just immediately after the strike. So they are trying to keep some time from from giving the official report so that it won't work as a correction of fire for Russians. And as we see, Russians do target civil objects. So every correction, every hint of what has happened with their previous strike could be also a hint for the new attack. So the Ukrainian state is now already very careful with this, as we see the 26th day of war. So no reporting already after the strike, so we are still yet to get the news about Mariupol situation in this exact art school which was targeted by Russians.
We hear you. Stay with us, Maria. I'm going to quickly cut across to Rajesh Pawar, who's on ground. Really, very courageous of him to be bringing us these reports constantly from that zone that's come under heavy fire. Rajesh, here we're looking at day 26 and Russia has only upped its offensive. In fact, in the city of Mariupol, we hear that an ultimatum has been given to civilians and the Ukrainian forces that either if you decide to stay, then you could come under fire. If not, you could leave through a safe passage if you put down your arms. Now, give us an understanding into how important the city of Mariupol is, and now that Russian forces have managed to enter into that city, what's been the resistance put up by Ukraine?
Look, Mariupol has a very, very journalist at the live, at the net recording. But features a live, at the mini, only me here, not a recording, okay? Net recording, at the mini live TV, okay? Sorry, I was interrupted because somebody thought I'm recording something, so I had to explain. See, as far as Mariupol is concerned, it's a very, very complicated situation. This city is under siege for now almost a week by Russian forces. They control almost 90% of the city right now. And there's a fighting going on, remaining 10%. There's still about 250,000 civilians trapped inside this. Now, there are various versions coming in. One version is that these people who are holding the defenses for Ukraine side, the Azov battalion and the Ukrainian army, they are not letting the civilians go out because they want the civilians to be used as a human shield or a protection against them when the Russian forces bombard. This can be true, this can be untrue, whereas the Ukrainians are saying that they are saying they have a choice and they want to fight till the end. So it's very difficult at this moment to verify who's saying the truth. But what is true is the city is encircled by Russian troops. 90% is under their control. 10% of that is still with the Ukrainian forces, and the fighting is going on as we speak. Over to you.
Right. Rajesh, we understand that talks between the two countries are still underway, but Zelensky, the president, has now said, in fact, warned of dire consequences if the next round of talks for evacuation and an appeal for ceasefire fails, then this will not be right, and this is almost an ultimatum that Zelensky has given out to Russian President Putin. What was spoken? Give us a sense.
See, President Zelensky at this stage is no position to give threats to Russia. Almost all big cities in east and south of Ukraine are surrounded by the Russians. Russian army is making advance everywhere. The Russian army is right on the outskirts of Kyiv. Zelensky is not getting any kind of support, military support he thought he will get from the West, be it America, be it Western European countries, be it in terms of aircrafts or be it in terms of enforcing no-fly zone. He's not getting any of that. So he's quite isolated internationally as far as military support is concerned. And inside the country, militarily, Russian forces are making advance everywhere. All big cities in the east are encircled by the Russians. So I don't think he at this stage in any way in a position to make threats. This is mere rhetoric, and I think just to keep the morale of the Ukrainian forces up, he's saying things like that. Over to you.
Right, Rajesh, I know that you were just spoken to by someone right outside. Would you by any chance be able to show us what's around you? How is the capital city of Kiev doing on 26th day of this war? We hear that in the north of the capital of Kiev, there seems to be heavy strikes and shelling.
If you can see around me, this is the situation. This is the main areas of Kiev, right in the center next to the train station. It's quite risky here. Because the moment you do this, people think you're recording something. I do explain to this man, I'm not recording. I'm just live on TV. I'm a journalist. Because you can be a Russian agent. You could be a Russian special forces guy recording things and passing it on to the Russian army. This is what people think. They are on edge here. People are very nervous. So it is very, very risky to show a camera around and do things. But you can see my background. I'm in the main city here, in the center of city, very near main train station.
We see vehicles still moving there. People seem quite courageous. One can only imagine the kind of fear that's prevailed among several innocent locals who are taking shelter in many of those bunkers and several residential areas. But nonetheless, while Russia, of course, escalates its offensive, what's the plan that Ukraine really has? Is there a strategy or a plan for them to come out of this really troubled situation?
Look, as far as military angle is concerned, I think the Ukrainian plan is let the Russians occupy the territory, the landmass, but they will defend the cities. So I think most of the Ukrainian forces and militia are concentrated inside the cities. So when the Russian army enter these cities, which they have tried to avoid so far, except in Mariupol and Kherson, that is the time then they want to bring fire onto the Russians. That is the time they want to choke them inside the cities, ambush them there, so that there are heavy casualties on Russian army. And I believe Russian army knows this, and that is the reason they are still avoiding getting inside the cities to get into a building-to-building, street-to-street fight. And I think that's the overall strategy, military strategy Ukraine is following right now.
You know, is there a plan that Russia has as such? Rajesh, please elaborate. Russia, we know that has been, their target has been Mariupol. They've been focusing around it, and that seems like of much strategic relevance for them. Apart from that, is there a plan that they're going with?
See, the Russian plan seems to be to control as much as territory as possible in the east and south of Ukraine, to have a landmass connecting Crimea to Donbass. This has been their strategy, and they seem to be succeeding in that. That way, they have cut off Ukraine totally from Azov Sea. Mariupol is the biggest port on Ukrainian side on Azov Sea, and they have cut it off totally now. So nothing from the ships which are docked there cannot supply Ukraine from Azov Sea right now. And their plan seems to be to have complete control of entire Donetsk and Lugansk province, at least of these two territories, before they go to negotiation table.
Now, it's day 26 of Putin's invasion, and key Ukrainian cities continue to be battered by Russian airstrikes. Several buildings in the capital city of Kiev have suffered damage from relentless Russian bombardment. A shopping center in Kiev was heavily damaged after a massive explosion struck the capital city of Russian shelling. In fact, it was struck by Russian shelling relentlessly, leading to at least 4 deaths. Forces advancing from the direction of Hostomel to the northwest have been repulsed by fierce Ukrainian resistance. The bulk of Russian forces remain more than 25 kilometers from the center of that city. Despite the fact that the port city of Mariupol in Ukraine is under siege, Ukraine has now rejected Russia's demand to surrender the city. Irina, who is Ukraine's deputy prime minister, has stated that the city will not be handed over to Russia. In Rivne city, Russia has carried out 2 missile strikes on a training ground. Near Odessa, Ukrainian military has shot down a Russian military ship. While Russia continues to escalate the assault, Ukrainian civilians are now coming out on the streets, undeterred by mortal threat. In fact, meanwhile, the Ukrainian president has stated that he's more than willing for talks with Vladimir Putin, but warned that a failure of diplomacy between the two countries is not, in fact, if they do not achieve any progress in talks, this will only result in another round of World War, or World War III.
It is already the 25th day since Russian military has been vainly trying to find imaginary Nazis from whom they allegedly wanted to defend our people.
Now, bruised and battered, Ukraine is showing remarkable courage and resilience in the face of all-out offensive by Russia. Ukraine has said that there is no question of surrendering the city of Mariupol after Russia called on Ukrainian forces on Sunday to lay down arms. Ukraine's deputy prime minister has said, and I quote, "There can be no question of any surrender, laying down of arms." He was responding to a Russian general offering safe passage to Ukrainian soldiers to surrender. Ukraine President Zelensky has said once again, and he's rallied behind his war-torn country, reminding of the cardinal duty to fight Russian atrocities, almost encouraging, trying to motivate Ukrainians and the people of his country. Emotional official statement released by Zelensky's office has said that Ukraine doesn't own huge territory, nuclear weapons or oil and gas, but it has its people and land, which is gold. These are words of Zelensky and an emotional appeal to his citizens. Most key Ukrainian cities are now being shelled non-stop by Russian army, with residential complex, shopping centers, hospitals, theaters, schools being bombarded. These are images that you see on your screens here, really haunting images right on day 26 of this Russia-Ukraine war. Remember, even today, reports coming in of a school that was bombed, an art school in Mariupol that was targeted where 400 civilians were residing. Unfortunately, the casualties are yet to be ascertained. Apart from that, you have Ukrainians there putting up a stiff fight, almost attacking and demolishing a Russian tank. In fact, this is the information that we get here, as several other parts of Kiev, the north parts of Kiev particularly, being shelled and targeted even on day 26. Now, let me quickly cut across to Katerina Kovita, who's a survivor who's fled from Kiev, currently in Frankfurt. Katerina, thank you very much for speaking to India today. We understand the trauma that you may have gone through as you fled from the capital city of Kiev. Give us an understanding, when did you flee from that city? What's the situation in your city? How did you really manage to escape and safely?
Hello. First, I want to thank you because you inform people all over the world about that tragedy, that unhuman that Russia does in the center of Europe nowadays. The war started in nearby my house from the first minutes. Because I lived and I worked in a big park that's situated in the north of Kiev. It's called Mazhagiria. It's ex-residence of Viktor Yanukovych, who escaped to Russia when he was the president and prime minister. He just stole this territory, and after his escape, we made it open, and nowadays it's a big park. And the first bombs they put into the park, really, because we woke because of my colleague came at night, early in the morning. It was rather dark, and he knocked at the door and screamed that the war started. And my husband got out the room. And after some minutes, I saw the light in the window, and I heard the blow. Russia was bombing our park. So I catched my little son. He is 1.5 years old.
Yeah.
Took my 2 dogs and went downstairs to hide in the lower floor.
Right.
And we tried to get out the house and try to get to some more comfortable or maybe some more safety place until the evening of the first day of the war. But we couldn't do this because maybe I send you videos because Russian military helicopters were flying just up in some meters up the house in the park. So they also bombed with cassette bombs in other territory of this park. And when we had just some silent hours in the evening, we took the children, most of women who worked in the park. There were also a lot of children, some dogs. I took my dog's cat, and
that's what we hear, that you managed to flee, not just you and your family, your pets. You've taken everyone along with you. Kudos to your courage there in the mid of that firing and shelling. You managed to evacuate your entire family. These visuals here are really heartbreaking. You have a really young son, Katrina. You've managed to take your son safely out along with your pets.
I couldn't leave anyone. So we were in the village. We just moved to another house, which is not in the park. And it seemed from the first day, it seemed that it could be more safety. But all villagers nearby our home in some days became occupied by Russian military. That is the most tragic places in Kiev region. It's Bucha, Stomel, Ivankiv, Dimir. All these villages around our home were occupied, and we have from the very beginning we have the humanitarian catastrophe. There is no food there. There is no electricity. It is very cold because it's winter. Still like in winter in Ukraine, it's minus or between 0 degrees. It's very cold. They know Russian militaries don't give people to get out there. They kill civilians when they try to get out. They kill volunteers that try to give some humanitarian help there. They kill everybody. That's
right. Which is why we're so amazed on how you managed to pull your entire family out along with your pets. If I could ask my producer to please show us those images. Katrina, in the face of all those hostilities and the kind of attack, firing, shelling that was constant, there you have it. Thank you very much, Katrina, for showing us. You're so brave. We know the number of people who've lost their loved ones. Please, if you can show us more, we'd really like to see, because this really are just signs and images of hope and some kind of courage that it may just instill in many of your own people who are really gutted with what's happening, what's unfolding in the country. Katrina, those images there, as we see your pet, your baby, you managed to take your entire family. Well, many humans were losing their lives on the way. Did you at any point feel threatened or afraid?
Listen, there is we decided to evacuate maybe in the 5th day. So we stayed for 5 or 6 days in a village, hoping that the war ends and our military will kill everybody around us, because the decision to get out of the house and to try to escape was the most hard decision in our life, because it was also very dangerous to get out the house, because there were a lot of street fightings around us. So we need to get out of the house to try to escape through the road which is situated through the forest. We need to go to the way to the most dangerous places. Then we need to go through Kiev when all the time there were bomb and aircraft attacks. So it was very dangerous way.
Right.
I'm not talking about that it was very difficult because of a little child. The whole way to Frankfurt took us about 1 week. Before war, I could get to Frankfurt in 3 hours. So you understand, 4 dogs, cat, also had a little monkey that I left in Budapest in Hungary zoo because it's very difficult to take it to Frankfurt and to Germany because it's
Absolutely.
a special
Would you
little
mind
monkey.
showing us your adorable pet again? We really want to see him or her.
Oh,
Her?
I have catched one of them because to another with my parents, they just live in another flat, and one is hiding under.
Oh my God, she's adorable,
under the
Katrina,
table.
and really appreciate you putting in so much effort to bringing her safe with you. But you know, animals are really sharp and sensitive to sounds. What did your pet go through? Would you understand what she's feeling? Because if you can hold her and give us an understanding as to how she's doing, you know? Yeah.
Well,
How is she doing?
now she's okay. So you see, she's in safety. They understand everything. They were escaping and they were hiding from the bombs with us. They heard everything. They were very frightened and they were silent. Even cats were silent. So all the way. The way was very difficult for them because we moved by one car. And there were only a little space for everybody, and we just put them all together. And the way was really, really difficult because it was dangerous from the one way and from another way. We tried to take some things that we need to. We don't know if we can go back home in a week, in a month, in a year. We even don't know if we have where to go back because today my village is under aggressive attacks. Yesterday they bombed one more time my village because they can't get into Kiev, and they tried to kill everything around the Kiev. So they try to find out information where little kids are hiding with an old people and so on, and they try to get this information and to try to bomb the places.
Okay, so you're saying that this was a deliberate attempt by maybe Russian forces, as per your claims, that they were trying to find shelters that housed old people and children. Was that their target?
Yes, that's their target. They try to make Ukrainian be scary of them, and they try to make maximum panic. And they think that Ukrainian people, after seeing what cruelty makes Putin and Russian people, they think that we can ask them, just stop. We can do everything you want. Just stop killing our children, old people, pregnant women. But no, they don't understand that Ukrainian people become angry and angry and angry. And every cruelty that they make with our country, with our people, with our animals, with our houses, with our towns, cities and villages makes us more stronger. And we have the one willing, not the stop the war. We want to win the war. Just now, it's our hope to win the war much more. We know that we will win. But we need to make it faster and faster and faster because they ruin our country.
You know, Katrina, but I can't help but think to all those other pets. I'm sure there were that many pets in the vicinity of where you were living. Many other children who probably are still stranded. Would you know of their fate? Have you been able to contact with anyone who've been left behind? Do you know how they're doing?
Yes, of course. I know, but I can't. So nowadays we can't tell about the places where children are hiding. I know these places. I know where little children are hiding. They're still there in a very dangerous territory. I know that the dog shelters are almost blocked in territories that are under control of Russian troops, and they are dying because nobody can get there. Volunteers try to get there and just to give the food to the shelters, to the dog shelters, and they killed the volunteers. So it's awful.
We shudder to think what you may have gone through, what you're still going through. The trauma will certainly not go away for a little while now. More power, more strength to you, and our prayers, of course, to you and your people. Katrina, thank you very much. At a time when we see barely human lives are being saved, here is Katrina.